Oh, kids, it is time for a Victory Monday edition of the Joe Thomas Half Hour, coming to us the Hofstrian. Look at him, decked out in the local garb as he's in the mountains, the Alps of Austria, skiing with his family. A beautiful thing. You look fantastic, by the way. The pictures looks like you're on top of the world, literally, which you are. You're on top of the meat world. Now you're on top of the skiing world. What's it been like, Hoff?
Oh, man, we've had a fantastic week, Z. It's been amazing weather. Like, some of the locals are complaining, oh, we don't have enough snow. And I'm like, well, it's 45 degrees and sunny, and there's snow where I'm skiing, and that's all I care about because I'm having a fantastic time. I'm drinking delicious Austrian, German, Bavarian beer every evening, enjoying schnitzel mit pommes and currywurst and all the delicacies that Germany and Austria have to offer. And the kids are having a great time. Dad's tired by the end of the night. Kids are tired. Everybody's going to bed about 8 o'clock. And the Browns smash the hated Squealers, defeat Aaron Rodgers in our stadium, potentially Joel Bitonio's last home game of his career. It was a beautiful trip so far, a beautiful game that I was able to enjoy, just like all the other amazing Browns fans throughout the world. And it's cool to be able to watch the same thing with so many people that you feel connected to. You know, I think back to, sometimes when I'm on vacation, talk to the kids, I'm like, hey, kids, go outside, Logan, go look at the moon. I'm looking at that same moon you're looking at, right? For me, Yesterday, it's late at night, I'm watching the Browns game, and I'm thinking, man, I'm watching the same game that my guy, the great Nathan Zagura, the Z, is watching, the same thing that Bo Bishop and Jason Gibbs and all my boys in Wisconsin that I've converted to be Browns fans and all my friends in Ohio. And it's just cool. It just brings you together, and there's a closeness in that community just knowing that you were enjoying the same glory of smashing the Squealers on a game that, hey, it didn't have a lot of meaning for the Browns in the moment, but it felt like it meant so much for so many different reasons, and excited to get into it with you. Don't have to stay on my soapbox here, my opening stanza.
No, first of all, it's beautiful. Now, you said, I think you sent it out, and I responded to you this morning on Instagram that, this is, you didn't really know what you wanted for Christmas until you saw that picture of Joel Bitonio coming off the field with his hand raised. And a lot of people have said maybe it was that prime rib that you got your family devoured, and even Grandma Martini said was the best beef she's ever had in her life, the Hoff Beef Wagyu prime rib, which was amazing. And thank you for the shout out there. But when you see that with Joel Bitonio, a guy who started his career next to you and who has followed very much in your footsteps in terms of always there, always available for his teammates, able to play at a high level for so long, and then what that was like. You didn't get to have, per se, a walkout on your own terms. And perhaps he will, or perhaps he will play again next year. We don't know. But if that were to be the last time that he played in that stadium as a member of the Cleveland Browns, why did that picture resonate with you so much?
Well, Joel's been one of my best friends since the moment he got in the league. We still stay in constant contact. And obviously watching him play, watching his greatness, talking to him this offseason about whether he should retire, whether he should come back. And obviously it's a difficult decision, and he decided to come back for this season. And then for me, just being able to watch how well he's playing and to get joy in knowing that he's just the same guy every day. He shows up, he does his job, he's playing fantastic football, as the 4 other linemen around him are all different than the guys that started the season.
Yeah.
And just knowing how challenging that is to go through like a difficult year, especially just getting into his headspace. I know that he thought the season would be better than it has become. And I know that was part of the reason he came back. He sort of believed in the season that it could become something that was special. Obviously, there's parts that are special, but from a win-loss standpoint, it's not like playoffs are on the line. And so watching him play at that high level, just going about his business, it's the amount of respect that I have for people that are willing to just go about their business, play at an extremely high level, not ruffle any feathers, not make it about him, but just doing your job. And I have so much respect for that. And to be able to allow him to walk off that field, maybe not his last time in a Cleveland Browns uniform, and to be able to get that ovation from the crowd, to see that photo after the game when I woke up in the morning of him just kind of pointing up and getting that love from the fans, it reminded me a little bit of one of the last times that I walked off the field, and you look up and it reminds you always of deep down inside why you play this game, right? There's a lot of reasons, okay? You can always say, well, you play for the money, get paid a lot. You play because you love the game. Of course you love the game. You play for your family. You play for your teammates. But the thing that drives you to be great in a season like the Browns are having right now for a guy like Joel Bitonio, where he's the only starter that's left on the offensive line. Offense has been much maligned. Defense has been great. Offense not so good. The thing that consistently gets him to go out there and play at his best and to go about his business as one of the best guards in NFL history are those fans that you look up into the stands. And for a moment there, it brought me back to the emotions that I had when I played, right? And I think it was that, and knowing how much I love that man, Joel, and how much he's done for this organization and for the city, and he continues to do, and just seeing that love that comes back from those fans to what he's done and what he's put in for a career, it was so special. I mean, it brought a tear to my eye. I was the only one that was awake this morning when I woke up and was going through some emails, before we got out on the slopes. And I was just sitting there just welling up with pride and with emotion, with joy that he was able to have that last moment, at least for this year. We don't have to get beyond just this game, but just that emotion that I know that he felt and how special it was, where it was in his mind like, yep, I made the right decision. I came back, I laid it all on the line for these fans. And even though maybe it didn't go exactly the way I thought, like having that respect that's mutual between the greatest fan base in pro football and one of the greatest guards that's ever played the game was just an incredible moment.
It was a powerful moment. I got a chance to interview Joel prior to the game, and it was at the end of it. I think we both had a little mist in the eyes, got a little dusty in there, and I have a great deal of respect for him, as you well know. And yeah, it's wild to think about that. He has been, much like your 73 was such a constant, that 75 has been such a constant for the Browns, and he was a guy that I wasn't going to get to your streak per se, but he was close, which is a very admirable thing before he had the scope and wasn't able to be ready against the Niners coming out of that bye week back in 2023. But it's just, those are some of those things, when you get into this game from your perspective, this business from my perspective, where I get to talk to you guys. I remember 2014 was the first year that I did the draft with the Browns, and Joel Bitonio was drafted in the year 2014. So I was the first interview he did when he was drafted in the second round that year. And so I've known him from then to now, and to see him now, he's a family man, and all of the things that he's gone through and the evolutions, and to see, somebody go from being a young kid from California who played at Nevada to what he is now as kind of just a stalwart of this organization, and to think that might be the last time we see that 75 walk off with the name Bitonio on the back in that stadium. It was an emotional thing for sure.
It was incredible. And, at the end of my career, I struggled with the losing. It's been something I've talked about a lot, talking with the team therapists and things like that. And I think the one constant for me was like the greatness of the fans and that feeling of the respect that you're given for the job that has mostly gone unnoticed throughout the NFL. Mm-hmm. The job of a lineman, you only notice them when something bad happens, right? And I think for Joel to just feel that love, it was such a special moment, and I think it was such a great way for him to potentially finish his career. And I think it was emotional to me, and I don't, you never want to make it about you, but that's the connection that you have with a certain player. That's the connection that I think even fans that don't know Joel feel like they know him, right? Because he's been such a man of the community. He's been such a vocal leader on this team. He's been such a steadying force through the good times and the bad during his career. And just for me personally to know like what it is like to play football your whole life. I don't know if Joel's 35 or so, 36, maybe somewhere in there. And his entire identity of his life since he started playing probably in middle school until now has been as a football player. And knowing like what that transition's like going from, all right, I've identified as a football player to now I'm not anymore, and people just see me as a guy who used to play football. Like that's a hard thing to go through, that transition from that identity. And so for me, it was just really happy to know that like whenever that transition happens where he goes from I'm a football player, I'm an NFL player, I'm a Cleveland Brown, right? To I'm not anymore. Like to me, I will always remember that moment and that picture. And that's why I posted it on my Instagram, Joe Thomas 73, with that legend, because to me, that picture is like, it's legendary. It's already burned in my memory of the identity of Joel, this great,
Yeah.
grizzled, tough, hardworking guy that just molded himself into being one of the greatest guards in NFL history by sheer will and intelligence and work ethic. And as a guy who played offensive line, like, that's the type of peak respect that I have for a player when they just do it out of their own sheer will and they stick with the franchise and that loyalty that he's had in Cleveland. It was just so special. And I just loved every second of it.
Do you remember his rookie season in Atlanta when we attempted a very long field goal, I want to say, at the end of the half? Yeah. And was it Devin Hester? In my mind, I've made it into Devin Hester, but whoever it was that ran the ball back, Joel Bitonio ran them down as a guard on the kick team. He got the tackle that saved a touchdown, and I'm like, this guy is unbelievable. I mean, that's the kind of, I know that has nothing to do with playing guard, but that's the kind of heart and, as you said, the grit, the determination that very few possess. A lot of linemen would be like, we saw the guy in Denver a few years ago where he went and just dove at the air 5 yards behind the player. And that was a good effort. But Joel actually went and made the tackle, which was nuts.
It was great. And I think one of the things that you heard a lot about when Joel was a young player and he was, the Browns were trying to introduce him to the fan base was about what a great athlete he is, right? Nobody thinks of linemen as great athletes, but obviously if you're a lineman in the NFL, you probably were a great athlete and you still have some of that, left in maybe your left leg or something like that. But, Joel was a great basketball player when he was in high school.
Probably thought in high school, you may have said, I was known as a hoops man.
Yeah, like he's a fantastic athlete. He's super fast. And actually, playing in Nevada, I remember when Ray Farmer drafted him, it was like, well, he played tackle. We don't really know where he's going to be, but he's a great athlete. He's a big guy. So he'll find a way because he's a hard worker. He's super smart. And that's what he's done. But he still is a great athlete. And like thinking about the moment, like you mentioned in Atlanta, where we kicked that long field goal and all of us fatties, me and Alex Mack and Mitchell are like chasing after this guy. It's not a fair fight, right? He's got a 100-yard field by 53 and a third yards wide. And he's got 9 fat guys and a couple kickers like chasing after him, right? And Joel Bitonio chases him down. I mean, it just shows the tremendous athlete and the will that man has. And it's been such a fun ride. We're just watching him and just watching him develop from a guy that had no idea what he was doing playing guard when he first started, but just he would not die. He's the guy that just says, I'm going to figure this out, hell or high water. I'm going to figure out how to play this position. And he did, and he's played it as fine as anybody's ever played that position for a very long time now.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, let's transition off of Joel Bitonio to another bit of what we would call offensive line or maybe offensive play in this one. Browns win, as Gibbe says here, good triumphs over evil. We heard Myles Garrett's comments. I saw your tweet. I thought the exact same thing watching the game, that it felt to me at times the Steelers were much more focused on making sure Myles Garrett didn't sack Aaron Rodgers than they were about actually gaining yards and putting points on the scoreboard. You are the Hoff. Your opinion matters a heck of a lot more than mine. What did you see from the way that they not only blocked it, but the way they schemed it and really some of the decisions with the football that Aaron Rodgers made in that game?
Yeah, I was so pissed watching that game because obviously, you want to beat the Squealers, of course. That's the big thing, right? But long term, we want Myles Garrett to get that sack record. He deserves it. He's the best pass rusher in NFL history. And of course, there's going to be debate, as there always is, with who's the greatest at this thing of all time. But I think in hindsight, when people go back, when his career's over, in however many years, they're going to watch it and be like, dude, nobody's ever played this position like that. And what I would love for somebody to do, and I was thinking about it as I was showering after my achy ass got off the slopes today after skiing for 6 hours, trying to chase after my kids who are not little anymore and are very good at skiing. No. And they're very difficult to chase down the moguls.
Fast.
But yes, fast. Thankfully, the replaced hip, thanks to University Hospitals, Dr. Voos, shout out, survived, and we made it. But I was in the shower, and I was like, you know what? Because I saw some Steelers fan. Of course, there's always good back and forth on Twitter, the Twitter sphere between Browns fans and Steelers fans about, T.J. Watt or Myles Garrett. And T.J.'s an amazing player. Like, love the guy, Badger. Grew up like 10 miles from me, so I got nothing but love for him. But Myles is a much better pass rusher than him. Myles is the greatest of all time, hands down. And watching that game and seeing that Aaron Rodgers was not waiting more than 1.2 seconds to throw the football on any play that they were throwing the entire game until the very, very end. And even then, his eyes were on Miles the whole time. So
Yep.
I'm sure you saw it because you were calling it, but the very last, I think it was the very last drive when Aaron was clearly needing to make a play. So it was the very first time he didn't just throw a sideline fade or a quick check down for 4 or 5 yards. He was watching Miles because they put Miles on the inside, or maybe they put him on the edge, but they stunted him. He was watching him the whole time, and he backed up, and that's actually how we got a sack on that play. It was because Aaron was so worried about where Miles was and avoiding him, he wasn't even keeping his eyes down the field. And so it was pretty obvious that, yeah, they wanted to win the game, but first and foremost, they said, we only care about keeping Miles from the quarterback. If we can avoid allowing him to get that sack, we feel like, one, it probably gives us a good chance to win, but in the long and short game, we feel like we do not want Miles to set that record against us with the history that we have with him, with all the things going into the rivalry between the two teams. They were like, hey, we'll win the game next week. We don't really care if we lose this one. And, it hurts our playoff hopes, hurts our AFC North championship, but we are not allowing Miles to sack Aaron Rodgers. And so they doubled him or they chipped him.
Tripled him.
Aaron just got rid of it in an incredibly quick amount of time. And look, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want Miles to wreck the game either, but it went beyond just trying to win the game to, we don't really care if it's an incomplete pass. We don't care if we have no opportunity to move the ball down the field and convert third downs. We are not allowing Miles to get that sack record against us.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers in that game went 3 of 15 on third down. 3 of 15. I'm pretty sure that I don't know if there's another Aaron Rodgers game in his career where he was 3 of 15 on third down. And a lot of times it was just like, yeah, he would even throw it, kind of pitch it out like this, throw it underhand, just get. We even said at one point during the broadcast, I'm like, you can tell he's looking at him and his clock. It was his fastest time to throw of the season. Miles was double teamed or chipped. Double teamed, I think, on 41% of his rushes, and then he was chipped on basically all of them. There were only, I think, a handful in the entire game where they just left him one-on-one. But I said he would take, if he saw the corner's eye that Miles was going to sack him, he would have just dirted it and taken intentional grounding rather than let that sack happen. 100%. And I do think it impacted their game plan. I really do.
It did. They had no ability to move the ball down the field because they weren't trying to hold on to the ball. They gave a 0 probability of Miles getting a sack on any of those plays because they were not calling any plays, nor was Aaron Rodgers executing any plays that had him holding on to the football at all. And it was to the point where I was watching a game with the kids and Annie, and a couple of times on third down, they lined up without any tight end in the hip next to the tackle or any receiver in a position to chip. And I said immediately, I go, they're either rolling out away or they're handing it off, or they're throwing quick in the other direction. Because unless they line up somebody right there, they are not leaving Miles one-on-one with their tackle a single time in the entire game. And it's such an advantage for the defense. And that's something you don't see in the stats is like when you have a player that's so dominant and an offense that's so worried about that person, they are completely limited. It becomes 10 on 11 the entire game. And actually, when you consider the quarterback has the ball, so he's not really doing anything, it's 9 on 11. Right. Yeah. And so the force multiplier that Miles is for the Browns defense is unlike probably anybody that I can ever remember watching. I think Aaron Donald may have been close, way he was dominant from the inside, but still I think I'd give the edge to Miles. And I think Reggie White, it was at times watching him when I was a kid in Green Bay, but he wasn't as dominant all the time because they would still give him one-on-ones. Miles is like they have 2 guys or 3 assigned to him on every single play.
When you have a guy like Miles, if you were playing left tackle and your mindset was, I'm not going to be that guy, you knew you were getting a chip as well. When you see him in that wide of a wide 9, which we saw him in pretty much the whole game. Now, they did move him around. They moved him against the right tackle a couple times. They moved him on the interior a couple times, which certainly was good to see. But when you have a guy, when you see him that far in the wide 9, what does that do for you as a tackle? Good and bad, because there's obviously a reason that they do it from a strategy standpoint that benefits the defense as well and benefits Miles.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if you've got a tackle who's not a super athlete, it makes him very nervous because now that guy is so far away that you know you got to move a long way to be able to get to the spot where he's going to be rushing, right? Because it's just an angles game when you're a tackle, right? Quarterback's, 7 to 9 yards. The wider he is, the further that line is between the quarterback and the pass rusher. So the further you're going to have to get back, right? Obviously, the wider he gets, the less depth it increases. But still, you know that you've got to move a long way. And on top of that, that guy's now 7, 8, 9 steps into his rush before he makes contact with you. So he's gaining more momentum and more ground and more speed with every step that he makes. So now when you're starting the fight and you make that first contact with him, he's running a 4.5 40, right? He's, 11 yards into his 40-yard dash. So he's built up a ton of momentum and inertia. And Miles is pretty big and fast, pretty strong. And now you're moving really quickly. So when you think about like how heavy and stout am I as I'm running or backing up and kick sliding as fast as I can, you're a lot lighter. So you have to quickly transition from moving as quick as you can to putting your feet in the ground and anchoring in that spot and trying to take on a bull rush, which was kind of funny because, they tried to double Miles, but the entire game he was basically unblocked. I didn't see a single time, even with a chip and a double team, where he was locked up. It was just a matter of Aaron Rodgers just throwing
trying
it
to run
in
around
1.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Or running, like they still didn't stop him from getting to the spot in under 2 seconds. So if this was one-on-one pass rush in training camp, he won 41 out of 41 reps or whatever it was, how many times they threw, because they didn't block him a single time, even with 2 and 3 guys.
It really is unbelievable. I think we all think, as I sit here in our studio and I look out and there's a picture of Myles Garrett standing over Joe Burrow, I think that this Joe Burrow style lends itself much more to Myles Garrett being able to get home, and I think he will get that record. I think it's a lock that he will get that record this week down in Cincinnati. But yeah, that was wild, and I appreciate your perspective on it because, and really the Bills did the same thing too. The Bills either rolled Allen away from him the entire game or threw quick game. It's like, we're just not going to let this guy be a factor, and it's one of the reasons why they're not even running the football in his direction very often, and he hasn't been able to really get as involved. But it's amazing the impact that he has on a game, even when he didn't get the sack. He was the most important player on that field by far.
Yeah, it was great to see, and I enjoyed the fact that we talked last week about, all right, what should they do to try to take Myles and move him away from where those double teams are? Because, on offense, you're stationary. You can move your tight ends, you can move your receivers to try to help. But I thought it was great that Jim Schwartz took Myles and they put him over the right tackle. They put him over the offensive guard. They stunted him a few different times. So you're trying to move him around a little bit to give yourself an ability to try to say, okay, we know they're going to try to line up a tight end or somebody in that hip pocket area of the tackle. Well, we don't want to just line them up in that same spot because then we're kind of giving them what they expect. You move them around a little bit, you give a few different opportunities to get Myles, maybe a one-on-one, or at least give him an opportunity to split a double team. And so it was nice to see that. I know it's not in Jim Schwartz's playbook to go with like a 3-down and drop 8. He's a 4-down rush guy. But the only other thing that I could think that maybe would be effective in that situation is to just rush 3 and drop 8 and have really tight underneath coverage. Now, I don't think the Bengals are going to play it like the Steelers did, where Aaron Rodgers is throwing 3- and 4-yard passes or sideline fades the entire game. So it may be a little bit of a moot point to even talk about, but I think the only other thing that the Browns could have done is maybe just rush 3, because Myles is going to win anyway. Like, it's not like they're going to stop him because they've got 5 and 6 blockers against our 3 defensive line. But if they would have maybe just blanketed a little bit more of the underneath zone coverage with a drop 8 situation, especially as you get closer to the red zone where everything gets compressed in the secondary, they potentially could have had a little bit better opportunity for Myles to get that sack and have some impact. But hey, we'll see. I think, like you said, I think it's a great opportunity to go get that sack record against the Bengals.
Absolutely. All right, let's get some game balls out here on a Victory Monday. One on offense, one on defense. Hop, start on offense.
Ooh, that's a good. I got to give it to Joel Bitonio, right?
Absolutely.
The most solid performer on that offensive line all season long. Thinking of the last 16 games, I can only remember maybe 1 or 2 plays where he got beat, which is an incredible statistic when you think about offensive line play. Like a great game for an O-lineman is if you grade over 90%, which means you did your job more than 90% of the time. He's probably grading at like 98% for the season, which is all-pro Hall of Fame level. And, you know, he's done it the right way his whole career, and he did it the right way. Again, going against Cam Hayward most of the game, locking him down, playing great, opening up lanes in the run game, giving our quarterback an opportunity to step up in the pocket and creating that clean space in front of him with firm protection. So I got to give it to my guy, Joel.
I love that. I'm going to give it to Harold Fannin. I know that he got injured, unfortunately, early in this game, but what a find he has been in the third round. Leading receiver, now 7 total touchdowns on the year, over 70 catches, over 700 yards, more catches than any rookie in Browns history. And you could tell that we missed him, by the way, as that game went on, because he has become Shedeur Sanders' kind of go-to guy, his blanket guy. And I thought Shedeur made a lot of good throws in this game as well, 17 to 23 on the day. All right, let's talk about the game ball on defense.
Yeah, I think the Browns on defense did a great job, obviously, and I got to give it to Tyson Campbell. He had a fantastic game, and he's really come on strong as the season's worn on. I think he's been a tremendous trade. Got to give the Browns a lot of credit for identifying the contract, ability to trade Greg Newsome, get some draft choices, have some salary cap relief, and to get a cornerback that frankly probably fits maybe a little bit better for the Jim Schwartz system. He was big all game long. I know Denzel Ward had the great pass breakup at the end of the game, but you know, when you've got an all-pro on the other side with Denzel, your other corner is going to get a little bit more attention, and Tyson has continued to play at a fantastic level, and I think the Browns have got to feel really, really good about how they're sitting at the cornerback position, having 2 amazing lockdown corners on the outside.
Yeah, and MJ Emerson coming back next year. That will be fun. I'm on defense. I'm going to give it to Carson Schlesinger. The guy played the game on one leg, and I know as somebody who has gone out there at less than 100% many, many times at the position he did, not to take a snap off, was just incredible. Flying all over the field, still got double-digit tackles. Incredible performance there. All right, time now for the Trench Report, brought to you by Big Fig, the mattress made for more, crafted in Cleveland just like our Browns. Hoff, Alex Wright, career year now. He's got 5.5 sacks. He's got 12 tackles for loss in this game. A sack, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. The Browns extended him. They found their complement to Myles Garrett. What have you seen from him as he's kind of developed here in his young career?
He's been awesome. A huge part of the great season that Myles has had, obviously. Because when you have that guy on the other side that's bringing consistent edge pressure, you don't give the quarterback the ability to escape or to move in the pocket to create a little bit of space when he is getting that pressure. So Alex has been fantastic. He's been great and consistent all season long, and I can't wait to continue to watch his development within this Jim Schwartz system, because he is absolutely one of the better defensive linemen in the NFL, and certainly, in my opinion, the best defensive line in the entire NFL. It's so dominant all the way across the board. Going against defenses, I think about playing against like the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't remember what year it was, but when they had Graham,
everybody,
and they had Chris Long, they had everybody. I forget who they had on the inside. Names have lost me after being gone for 10 years from the NFL, but I mean, you go against a defensive line like that, you're scared, because you know, like, we got to get real lucky to get any yards. There is no way we're going to convert a third down unless we're just making some crazy sideline fade or like some circus catch down the sideline, because we don't have the time. It doesn't matter if 3 or 4 guys do their job and, you know, win an unexpected battle on that front, because one of those 4 dudes is going to win. And when you have a guy like Alex Wright on the other side, like, he just complements Myles in such great fashion, like the rush and the coverage working together. It's a big reason why this has been one of the most dominant defenses in the NFL.
No doubt about it. All right, Hoff, one-word answers here. Predictions. We got 3 games that have big implications. 2 of them are win or go homes. The other will determine the number 1 seed in the NFC. They are the 3 primetime games of the weekend. We're going to start Carolina at Tampa Bay. Winner wins the NFC South. Loser, their season is over.
I got Carolina. I know that it's been a crazy season. You know, Tampa was super hot to start, and Baker Mayfield was in the MVP conversation, probably one of the leaders in the clubhouse. But Carolina's coming on strong at the end. Tampa fading, and I feel really good about the Panthers winning that and walking away with the NFC South crown in unexpected fashion. Nobody would have picked them at the beginning of the season.
No, absolutely insane. All right, Baltimore, Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. The winner wins the AFC North. The loser goes on vacation, perhaps to Austria.
Yes, they should. Austria is amazing. It's an underrated destination. I would definitely get out there and enjoy the slopes, or maybe come in the summer and do some hiking.
Have you sought out the Arnold Schwarzenegger's birth home? It's like a museum.
Ooh, I have not, but I should because I love
Austrian
the
Oak.
Arnold. Oh,
Yes.
it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to look that up. I know he was out here like a couple years ago when I was living in Germany. He got arrested at the airport in Munich or maybe Innsbruck because he had a real expensive watch and he didn't declare it at customs. I can't imagine arresting Arnold because he didn't declare
Arnold,
his $20,000 watch or something stupid like that. But yeah, I got to show you your friend Reese. Oh, you were dancing.
Reese! What up, Reese?
I know. I'll be there in 5 minutes. So, no, I haven't seen your iPad.
Reese
Leave
needs
me
full
alone,
editing
kids.
privileges.
Yes.
Daddy's working.
I'm on the radio. Leave me alone. So, yes.
Even Hall of Famers have these struggles, folks. Even Hall of
Oh,
Famers.
come on. Kids, leave me alone. I'm trying to work. Oh, yes.
Ravens, Steelers. Who you got?
Ravens, Steelers. Thank you for getting me back on track. So I think Aaron Rodgers is not going to pull the I'm trying not to get sacked routine, and the Steelers are going to pull it off. I still don't believe in the Ravens. I just feel like there's just too much internal turmoil. I think that, they've been better at the end of the season, but I feel like the Steelers pull it off, and Aaron Rodgers is able to get them over the top, win the division, get into the playoffs. They're going to be cooking.
All right, who wins the NFC West and becomes the number 1 seed? The Niners or the Seahawks? The Niners, red hot on offense.
Love the Niners right now, finishing strong in typical Kyle Shanahan fashion. I just love what they're doing, playing their best ball down the stretch.
Agreed.
And when you got Sam Darnold at quarterback, I just don't ever really believe that you're going to be able to do it in the big moments.
You and Gibbe, I love it. Hoff, go enjoy Austria. Get my girl Reese her iPad. We love you, brother. Stay safe on the slopes and enjoy. Bottoms up.
Prost, Z. I appreciate the time, man. It's great to chat with you. So fun after a Browns win. So fun to be able to do it from across the country. And we will chat next week, my man.
Yes, you have got it. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Hoff, Joe Thomas, live from Austria. That is his dedication to Cleveland Browns Daily, the Cleveland Browns, and you. That'll do it for our show.